going to stand up and say, I'm not going to take this anymore. You can't do this to me. You're my servant. I'm not your servant. I needed that break to bring some. I see somebody raising their hand back there.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
First of all, I wanted to thank you for making this film. I think you're going to inspire a lot of people.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
The world eventually collapse.
What?
It'll collapse. We'll collapse.
Oh, if we do our job, it will collapse.
Yeah.
They can't do anything. Remember, they have nothing to do without us.
Right.
If we don't cooperate, they can't do anything.
Exactly.
You have to understand that. But here's our difficulty. The Federal Reserve can make money out of thin air. They can buy government. They can buy Bill Clinton or Hillary Clinton or George Bush. They can do whatever they want to do. What they can do is sit at a computer and type some digits in and create money. We have to organize. We have a harder job than they do. We have to organize. It takes work. It takes effort on our part to organize, to make things happen. And I know I made this movie to begin that process. You know, if everybody would go on the website and register, and sign up to stop the Federal Reserve, to sign that petition, and then to start on the form, that we can contact you by email. What I want to do is take Freedom to Fascism and make that an organization that will eventually be freedom to fascism, back to freedom again.
Nice.
Okay? That's what I want to accomplish.
Right.
And I want to use that organization and be able to reach out to everybody, to have demonstrations, to organize. And we need millions of people registering on the website, signing up on the website, not just a petition, but signing up to get emails, to volunteer, whatever it takes. That's what we need in all communities. Yes,
I hadn't finished my question.
I'm sorry.
Okay. I just want to know if you were familiar with the 9/11 Truth Movement and how you think it fits into what we're trying to do here.
I'm very familiar with the 9/11 Truth Movement, and I'm totally convinced that 9/11 was a fraud.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt in my mind about that. At first I didn't want to believe it, because it's such an ugly thing to believe. But the fact is, let me ask another question. Who here knows a lot about 9/11, what happened? Who believes that the government had nothing to do with it?
Had nothing to do with it.
What?
I believe it. So I hear.
Had nothing to do with what happened that day. Who believes the government was involved that day in what happened? Damn. Wow. Okay. Let's understand something. Bill, how many? If you know the answer, don't answer. Well, no, I can't do that. That doesn't work. Most people believe that 2 buildings fell down that day in New York. Who believes 2 buildings fell down that day?
Fell
Fell.
down.
How many believe 2 buildings collapsed that day at the Twin Towers?
From the plane or from other causes?
Whatever.
Oh,
Don't take my glory away.
In that building.
What?
The head of the guy of the FBI,
John O'Neill,
terrorist expert, was killed in that building. I prayed for him and I had a mass for him. I know.
Okay, well, I didn't know. I wasn't aware of that. But the point I was trying to bring out
Building
was
7.
that 3 buildings went down that day, not 2. And the 3rd building was called building number 7. And that was a 47-story office tower. It was a pretty big. It wasn't as big as the Twins, but it was still enormous. And if you've ever seen the tape of it falling, you realize it's a controlled demolition. It came straight down. Like you see those buildings in Vegas come down? So they asked the owner of the building, a man named Larry Silverstein. They asked Mr. Silverstein, well, what made Building 7 fall down? And it fell down around 5 hours after the first 2 fell. And he said the fire department decided to pull it, meaning to bring the building down. That's what he said.
So we pulled it.
Now, that was a big mistake on his part. If you know anything about controlled demolitions, you know for a building that size, it would take weeks
Months.
Weeks to control demolition in that building, to plant explosives on all the floors and all the right places. You couldn't do it in 4 or 5 hours and all the chaos going on there. And you couldn't do it in 4 or 5 hours if there was no chaos going in there. It's impossible. So once you know that, and he admitted it was controlled demolition, then you realize that that building had been set up for weeks in advance of 9/11 ever happening.
Why?
What?
Why?
What was in
Why
that?
what?
What was in that building?
What was in that building?
Well, I think the point was that it was supposed to go down with the Twin Towers. So there was a plan, and they had 2 planes hitting the buildings, and then you had the third building coming down.
But what was on that 23rd floor? Did you know about that?
Which part of it?
That's Mayor Giuliani's CIA
War room, you mean?
war room,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and I mean, I've heard a lot of stuff, but that's not important to me. What's important to me, the crucial piece of evidence, is that they said it was pulled down by the fire department, and it's impossible to pull down in 4 or 5 hours, which means it was planned weeks in advance. That's the important thing. If it was planned weeks in advance, the 9/11, the Twin Towers was planned weeks in advance. Okay, it can't be any other way. And that's why the official government report of 9/11 never mentions Building 7. Because they have no explanation. They have no cover story. So the other cover story is, the planes hit it, so it went down. Which, by the way, can't be either. But rather than getting into all the technical details, Building 7 is the obvious answer. So when you ask me about 9/11 Truth Movement, yes, I believe that. And I believe it shows how evil and corrupt our government is, and how much we have to resist and fight the Federal Reserve and the government. Now, I'm going to tell you one more thing, which I don't tell very often, but I'm going to say it tonight. I mentioned one of the Rockefellers across the street in the theater about women's lib. I can tell you another little story. 11 months before 9/11 ever happened, he called me up and spoke to me. Well, I should say, he was at my house, and we were talking, and he said, "Aaron, you know, there's going to be an event." And he didn't tell me what the event was going to be, and I don't know that he knew what the event was going to be. But there's going to be an event, and we're going to invade Afghanistan, so we can build pipeline out of the Caspian Sea. We're going to invade Iraq, so we can control the oil there, and control the Middle East and get them to be part of the New World Order, because they're resisting us. And we're going to invade Venezuela. We're going to go after Venezuela, which they tried to do, but Chavez beat them off. Keep trying. So all these things, in my opinion, bring me to the conclusion that the battle we're facing is that of good and evil. That's our battle. It's not whites and blacks. Blacks love me, I love blacks. It's not Jews and Muslims, I love Muslims, I'm a Jew. You know, it doesn't matter what you are. We're individuals. All Jews aren't the same. And I hear this stuff about Jewish bankers, you know, and this thing and that thing. You know, you got to stop thinking in groups. We're all individuals.
We're all human, period.
Well, we're all human individuals. I agree with you. Mm-hmm. And so stop thinking of people in terms of being, all blacks are the same, or all Jews are the same. You got to get over that way of thinking. Because it's wrong. What matters is what Martin Luther King said. It's the character of who you are that matters. Not your religion or your color or any of that. What matters is, do you have integrity inside? Do you have honor?
Nice.
You know? Do you like yourself? Because you respect yourself. I know a lot of wealthy people. I mean, really wealthy people. You know, from Hollywood, politics. I mean, I know a lot of people. They're not happy, most of them. Because they don't like who they are. I'd rather have no money and like myself than have $1 billion and not like who I am. Okay? You have to, and to like yourself means you have to respect yourself. And to respect yourself means you have to behave in a fashion that you would respect if you saw somebody else doing that. It's standing up and being true to your nature. Being true to who you are. You see, there's an old saying that a leopard never changes its spots.